welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is a custom video for Mark. Sometimes viewers think about doing the old 2-for-1 deal, meaning trading two of their Rolex watches for one Rolex watch. Obviously, it would be a more expensive piece they're looking to upgrade to. Could be a precious metal piece, a more complicated piece, a more modern piece. But Mark is thinking of going in the opposite direction and trading what many may believe is a better piece for two lesser pieces. Quote, lesser pieces. Not my words. I love what he's thinking of adding, but I'm a Preceramic guy. I'm a 5-digit Rolex guy. So let's read Mark's email and give him some advice. Hello, Austin. Fellow American here. Not yet an expat, born and raised in Manhattan, New York City. I've been into watches for about a year, and without going into too much detail, I've bought and sold many pieces to have finally landed on the Rolex Submariner 114060, a 2018 model bought from Crown and Caliber in mint condition with papers, no box. And sometimes that's something you'll see here in Japan, a piece with papers but no box, and you got to wonder what happened to the box. Sometimes I think you guys have the box, you just want to sell it separately. But Mark, as long as you have the card, hopefully you have the tags too. Of course, you can source a box for it. So it's not that big of a deal. The papers are kind of the more important part of it. It's the crown jewel of my small collection and the only luxury watch in it. And he's got a 3-piece collection, and this is the best piece in it, a 40mm no-date ceramic sub. Let's look at the other 2 pieces in his 3-piece collection. My other watches are a Hamilton khaki field automatic 38mm, bought for around $400 USD. My first, quote, real watch that I love dearly and will never sell. And a G-Shock G5600E, the solar version of the classic square DW5600. And I think I have a G-Shock 5600, the all black, kind of blacked out version. My beater for building, maintenance, trash removal, etc. They aren't the focus of this email, as I'll never sell these two, but I just thought I would mention them. And look, it's a great 3-piece collection. Simple, honest. He's got his beater in the G-Shock, highly functional watch, solar powered. He doesn't have to worry about changing the battery. And if it's anything like mine, it resets itself every night via radio waves, so it's always completely accurate. So it's a great beater to have. He's got his first mechanical watch, Hamilton khaki, very attractive watch. And Hamilton is a respectable brand. And you got to keep your first mechanical watch. I love my Orient Blue Mako. I'll never sell that. So that makes sense. And of course, the no-date ceramic sub. So this is really all anybody would need for the rest of their life. And of course, we could look at it and say, where's the chronograph? Where's the dress watch? And all that kind of nonsense. But this is a fantastic collection. It's just simple. And again, it could last him for the rest of his life. But he's been bitten by the bug, and he's one of us now. So on to the insanity of collecting. And let's continue. Through watching your videos, I've gained a real appreciation for 5-digit Rolexes. I always dismiss them for being outdated, which I think is a byproduct of our modern technology age. I think we're so used to shopping for the latest and greatest when it comes to almost any other product these days that I think that mentality transferred over to watches when I first started collecting them. That's a really interesting topic, and probably I could make a whole nother video about it. But let me just say that yeah, I think a lot of people probably look at 5 digits as like, they couldn't handle their life. Let me just say this. The 5-digit watches are fantastic timekeepers. They have been for decades, and we'll just leave it there, all right? But they can handle anything. So while they're older, they're more than capable, all right? Now, why is he leaning towards 5 digits? I did because of the aesthetics, and him too, all right? The primary reason for my new interest in older models is this. I'm not a huge fan of ceramic bezels. I romanticize this idea of a man and his watch navigating through life together, both collecting scars and marks of aging together. With ceramic, it just isn't the same. On top of that, although it won't scratch, which he says he doesn't quite buy that it won't scratch, and I think I agree with him. I think I've seen ones that have been kind of scratched a little bit, so it can happen. He says it can crack, chip, or shatter upon impact, and that just seems counterintuitive to the anatomy of a tool watch. Well, the bezel insert is a huge aspect of the difference, as is the maxi dial in the hands, and of course the case if you're looking at this maxi case sub that he has. But really it's the bezel insert that I think really differentiates them, because the aluminum inserts, well, they're smaller, they've got kind of a flat color. The light bounces off them, especially when you're talking like the GMTs and the Pepsis and the Cokes and that kind of thing, differently, okay? And they're not as shiny. And I've heard some people criticize that shininess. What happens when the watch ages? You know, you'll have this shiny bezel and the watch will look all used. Yeah, I don't know that that's going to look that bad. I think it could look cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you're looking for balance in terms of the aging and wear on the watch, then you're going to get that more on the aluminum inserts. And for me, it's just sort of the overall aesthetic. I like the 5-digit more, and again, a big part of that is the aluminum inserts. But again, as far as which is stronger, obviously it's going to be the ceramics. But he makes a good point. I mean, they can chip and crack, and you know, by the time that happens, you probably have bigger issues with your watch. The movement's probably hurting. I don't know what the crystal looks like. Crystal's probably gone. God knows what the case looks like. And what about the bezel contraption that actually houses the ceramic? That's going to be marred. And so you're likely going to have bigger problems if you crack your bezel. But, of course, if you scratch your bezel up and it's aluminum, replacing it's not that big of a deal. It's $100 during a service. If you don't have your watch serviced, it's $100 plus $50 to have it installed. And the ceramic inserts are going to be much more expensive than that. So yeah, they're both going to have their advantages and disadvantages, but you know, I've always come at it from an aesthetic point, and in that sense, I really do like the aluminum 5-digit pre-ceramic inserts. All right, so he says, I love the modern look bracelet, including the game-changing glide lock clasp and movement of my 114060. But I get excited thinking about the journey I'd take with a pre-ceramic sub plus an Explorer 2. That would be a 16570, the 40 millimeter Explorer 2. My guess is the polar, because if you go with a sub, you'd have the black dial, the polar would be the white dial. Those work really well together. Both with solid in-link and holes case. That combo excites me, and I think they play off each other well. Absolutely. I mean, that's what I started out with. The no date sub, great, minimalist, just beautiful. I think it's the best looking watch in terms of aesthetics, and then add the complicated piece with the GMT function and the date, and those worked so well together. They still do, but that was a real fun period in my life when I just had those two pieces. Everything was so simple and just had two pieces, and the black dial and the white dial and the GMT function and the date, and then the clean dial and the beautiful rotating bezel and then the fixed bezel. You know, they just work wonderfully together. So my long-winded question is, should I sell my ceramic 114060 and add some cash, obviously, to get a pre-ceramic 14060? That's the 40 millimeter pre-ceramic no date sub, and an Explorer 2 16570. So basically selling his watch and doing what I did, getting the 14060 and then a 16570. I'm reluctant because although I'm not looking to flip watches and am indeed looking for lifelong keepers, I enjoy the fact that my 114060 is desirable and will likely appreciate over the next 10 or 20 years, as is the only super case or maxi case sub to be made. Rolex won't go back to that, and it will likely be viewed as a strange but unique design for the sub. And as we all know, strange and unique designs do well. Yes, well, unique, strange, weird, well, they didn't do well, and that's the whole point. I mean, they're doing well 20 years on, but they didn't do well, and they were lemons. And that's why they're tens of thousands of dollars now, because at the time, nobody wanted them. Nobody bought them. And so there are less out there. And some of these lemons could be the 1655. That was a bit of a failure. What about the early Daytonas or the early Milgauss watches? Nobody wanted these watches. And so to find one is hard, all right? And so that accounts for the tens of thousands of dollars they go for. There's that, okay? There's also short production spans. So the GMT's always been pretty popular, but the fat lady, the 16760, was only made for 5 years. And add to all this the fact that people were wearing these watches. They weren't really collecting them. They weren't popping them in safes. That's all changed, okay? We're all speculating on watches, and we're all hoarding watches. A lot of watches are ending up in safes. Make no mistake, there are quite a few box papers, minty, even probably stickered 114060s in safes all around the world, all right? And your watch is going to hold its value, but not for the reasons you think. It's not because it's the, first and last super case or maxi case. It's not because it's the first ceramic sub or the last 40 millimeter ceramic sub. These first and last arguments are great on paper for speculators, but the world really doesn't work like that. And whether this shoots up in price really depends on, I think, what happens in the future with the current model. Now, if the current 41 millimeter model runs for 2 years before they change it, that's going to become very collectible. If they run it for 30 years like they did the 1016, which is kind of crazy because the 1016s go for a lot now, talking about the Explorer, well, then people are going to look back, decades back, and say, that crazy cased 114060, pretty cool, right? It could happen, all right? I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but what I think is more likely is people are just going to want to wear the watch, all right? These are just popular watches, okay? But as far as it being because of the case shape, I don't think it's going to be because of that. It's going to be because it's a Rolex, and Rolexes are still fashionable 20 or 30 years down the road. But as far as, people fixating on a case shape or firsts, I think that's a lot less likely than them fixating on other visual elements, okay? For example, the 116710 LN, that's the last of the oyster braceleted all black GMTs, okay? And that has more interesting visual cues than just the wide lugs on your watch. And so I can imagine people going nuts over that in the future more so than your watch. Because let's be honest, I mean, the 41 millimeter no date sub really doesn't look all that different than yours, okay? So really, your argument sounds good on paper, but is it really going to translate? Okay, and again, keep in mind that we're all speculators now. And I think because we're all thinking these are going to be collectible, these are going to be collectible, people are hoarding them and safe queening them. And for that reason, they're not going to be collectible in the same way. They're going to be collectible just because Rolex will be still in and trendy and fashionable. Let's hope that lasts, because this could all come down like a house of cards if 10 years the world just moves on, all right? You and I, Mark, will just be left with our half-priced Rolexes that we paid like full price for. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. But Yeah, it'll hold its value, but not for the reasons you're thinking. Am I better off waiting to get a higher price for my sub? Or will all three watches in question appreciate at similar rates, making it irrelevant if or when I do this trade? And he's talking about the 14060, which is the no date sub, the 16570, the Explorer 2, and then his 114060. Okay, they're all going to go up, in my opinion, my estimation of the future. Okay, they're all going to creep up. I think that your watch is probably selling at a premium at the moment, and that's because I think the same thing is happening to it that happened with the GMT All Black. It shot up from like 8,000 or 9,000 to 15,000, 16,000. Who was doing that? Retailers, right? For people saying, oh, I gotta get this. It's gonna be collector's item, collector's last of the last, right? This kind of nonsense, all right? Well, I'm sure people paid a lot for it and went out and bought it, but eventually people came to their senses or moved on or whatever, and retailers then backed the price, and it dropped to about 11, okay, 11. And now it's creeped up to about 11, 12, 11 and a half or 12, okay? And so it kind of shot up, dipped, now we're kind of heading back up, all right? Now, yours, I wager, is at the high point right now. It's going to dip a little bit, it's going to level off, and then it's going to start to steadily go up. Again, the more organic price rise. So now is probably the best time to sell it. But of course, a lot of people with that kind of money are looking towards the new sub, so I don't know about that. But one thing going in your favor is there's not a lot of new subs out there. And so once in a couple of years, the gray market start to fill up with the newer ones, then I think you're going to see a slight price decrease on your watch before things level off, and then it starts going back up. All right. So now, as far as it compared to the other watches, those are desirable watches. They're going up in the future. All of the watches you're thinking about getting are going to be more in 10 or 20 years than they are now. All right. But the question is, which is more? Now, this is an interesting question, or an interesting topic, I should say, because Preceramics would be going for a hell of a lot more if Rolex had their current models in stores. They have effectively eaten into the pre-ceramic market, okay? Because you can't get these current models, makes people want them, people focus on them, and then forget about the ones that they can get on the gray market, okay? And so really at the moment, I would say ceramic pieces are stronger. Now, is it because of manipulation? I think so. I think once, I don't think this can last forever, and I think people are going to sort of wake up, look around, and say, Christ, we weren't even thinking about these 5 digits that they weren't making for a long time, okay? And I think that's when those are really going to start shooting up more. But again, if this never ends, if this manipulation continues for decades and decades and decades, I guess it could, then ceramics may continue to always outperform the pre-ceramics, all right? So I think that's the case. Now, the question is, do you want to do that? Do you want to do this trade? I mean, no. I wouldn't. First of all, if you're going to do the trade, baby steps. Let's be sensible about it. Don't sell this watch and go out and buy both of these watches. What you want to do is you want the 16570. Okay, that's a GMT watch. It's got the date. You want that watch. Okay, it's going to fit nicely with your collection. White dial probably is what you want. Get that. Okay, just buy it. All right, easier said than done maybe, because I'm just telling you to go out and buy the watch. And I know you might say, well, I got to sell this watch to buy the watch. Well, just if you can't make it happen, don't make it happen. Okay, just keep your sub. Okay, but first thing you want to do is you want to add that 16570. All right, you got to decide what kind you want. Do you, okay, and I could go off on a tangent. You could get this one or this one. Okay, that's another video maybe, but get that first, okay? Then you'll have your 2 Rolexes, okay? After that, I would add the 14060, try them both and decide if you want to get rid of yours, or if you really like yours and you think, well, actually I don't like the 14060 and want to get rid of that. Also keep in mind that your 14060, I mean, it's more modern, and a lot of people would say it's more usable. And so I think you may miss that, the modernness of it. And so I really wouldn't advocate you getting rid of it and just having the 14060. I mean, it just seems weird to me. I mean, I can understand wanting to do it. I can understand me wanting to do it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't trade any of my pre-ceramics for a ceramic version. I wouldn't even do a straight trade because I like them that much. But I feel like I'm the exception. I feel like, yeah, I feel like many people might do that and think, oh, I really missed that clasp, and what did I do? And I used to have the blue parachrome spring, and now I don't. And now I'm scared I'm going to get my watches magnetized, and I didn't have to worry about that before, and all these things that maybe you took for granted when you had that new piece. So don't sell the piece, all right? Just add these pieces, okay? And first add the 16570 Explorer 2. Okay, first add that because you're going to want that anyway, and try to add it before, well, I don't want to put pressure on you, but April apparently is when new watches are coming, and we think that it's going to be an Explorer 2, and if it is, then maybe all Explorer 2s will kind of shoot up. I don't know what that'll mean for the 40mm Explorer 2s. All right, but first do that, and then after that, add the 14060. Okay, and then you'll be in a better position to make a decision. You can always let the 14060 go. I mean, sorry, the 11460 go. Okay, or get rid of the pre-ceramic sub. Now again, if you back me in a corner and you say, no, Austin, like you got to choose either the sub I have or get the two pre-ceramics. Honestly, I mean, if it was me, I would do the two pre-ceramics, but again, it just seems kind of like crazy to trade ceramics for pre-ceramics because everybody's going nuts over the ceramics, okay? So if nothing else, just keep the ceramic sub and just add the 16570, okay? And I think that would be fine. And if you wear both of those and you think, I really do want the 14060, well, I mean, if you look down at that double 14060 and it just doesn't make you happy, okay, get rid of it, okay? But the 16570 will give you a little bit of a feeling on what that 31 movement is like. And yeah, and by the way, 14060M, 2-line, that's probably what you should go for, all right? Although the 3000 movement in the 14060 is fantastic. I mean, no complaints about that. Mine's running like plus 0.5 a day, okay? Has for years. So, baby steps. Ugh, hard one, man, hard. It might not be hard for the viewers. They might say like, are you kidding? Screw those 5-digit pieces of crap. I don't know what they're going to say, but viewers, help them out. Hey, thanks for the question, Mark. I hope this helped. Okay, I feel like it was a bit indecisive, but this is a hard question, and I'm totally biased. All right, so take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.